Vivien Leigh hated him more than anyone else. Vivien Leigh was born on November 5, 1913, in Darjeeling, British India. Her full name at birth was Vivian Mary Hartley. Leigh has been stunningly beautiful, smart, and fiercely determined since she was a child. These traits would later define her amazing career. He was born to Ernest Hartley, an officer in the Indian Cavalry, and Gertrude Robinson Yakji, an Irish and Parsi woman. Vivian spent her early life in colonial India, which was a beautiful place to live. Her family traveled a lot, which exposed her to many languages and countries. These experiences would later help her create characters from other worlds, with a rare level of emotional realism. Vivian's parents brought her to England when she was 6 years old and put her in a convent school. It was there that her interest in books and theater started to take shape. She was smart beyond her years and read poems and put on short plays for her friends, captivating them even at such a young age. Later, she went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA, in London to improve her skills and create the clear speech, emotional depth, and wide range of emotions that would become her trademarks. Her singing was lovely, her looks were ethereal, and her poise was magnetic. Some things about her that made her stand out from other actress-to-bes. Leigh became famous after playing small parts in British movies in the 1930s. But it wasn't until she played Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, 1939, that she really broke through. The movie, which was one of the biggest projects of its time, needed an actor who could show both fiery determination and delicate vulnerability. Vivien Leigh played Scarlett with such passion that people all over the world were mesmerized. The Academy Award for Best Actress went to her for that performance, which made her a world star. Even now, her act is remembered as one of the most memorable and often copied in movie history. Fans and critics alike were amazed at how naturally she played the complicated Southern belle, a part that many people thought an English actor could never pull off. After her big success in Gone with the Wind, Leigh kept showing that she wasn't just good at one famous part. She was just as smart when she was on stage, especially in Shakespearean plays. In British theatre, her work with Laurence Olivier, her husband and professional partner, became famous. They put on plays like Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, and Macbeth together, and the crowds often broke records. Even though they were truly in love, their relationship was unstable because of the stresses of fame, demanding jobs and Vivian's health getting worse. Even with all of these problems, the couple was still one of the most famous in theater history. In 1951, Leigh gave another performance that changed the course of her career, when she played Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Called Desire, both on stage and in Elia Kazan's movie version of the play. She won her second Academy Award for Best Actor for her role as a fragile, delusional Southern woman who is haunted by bad memories. The emotional depth of the part, on the other hand, reflected Vivian's own struggles. She had bipolar disorder, which was called manic depressive illness at the time. It caused serious mood swings, emotional turmoil, and times when she was completely worn out. Her illness often made it hard for her to work and be with other people. But Leigh kept performing with courage and grace. Even though things were hard, she wasn't going to let her problems define her. Vivien Leigh was a beautiful woman, but she was also very smart, sensitive, and strong. She was known for carefully preparing for parts, and being a perfectionist who often did things that were too hard for her health. Her friends and coworkers said she was both weak and very strong. An artist who is always looking for new ways to show beauty and truth through her work. Her bright, expressive eyes could show layers of emotion that went beyond what she said, which made her performances truly moving and unforgettable. Both Vivian's mental and physical health got worse as the years went on. Even so, she kept working on stage and in movies like Ship of Fools, 1965, and The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone, 1961. She never lost her beauty or her love for playing, even when she was sick. Vivien Leigh's love life was just as interesting and complicated as the characters she played on screen. She was married twice, and both times had a big impact on her personal and work life. He was a barrister and almost 13 years older than her. He was her first husband, Herbert Lee Hullman. Their wedding took place in 1932. When Vivien was only 19, she was still known by her birth name, Vivian Mary Hartley. Hullman was a traditionalist who liked a quiet life at home. At first he didn't like how Vivian was becoming more interested in the theater. Even though he had doubts, he did help her in some ways when she first started her playing career. She might not have known how quickly her drive would bring her to the attention of the public. Even though they loved each other, their relationship got more difficult as Vivian's love for playing grew. She started taking acting classes at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, (ARDA), in order to become an actress and performer on stage and in movies. Soon ran into problems with Holman's strict ideas about marriage. In 1933, she gave birth to their only child, a girl named Suzanne Farrington. During Vivian's troubled life, Suzanne became one of the few things that stayed the same, but by the middle of the 1930s, married people were emotionally and physically farther apart. Vivian's growing fame and her involvement in the London theatre scene made it hard for her to follow Holman's expectations of a traditional married life. They finally got a divorce in 1940, but by that time, Vivian was seriously in love with another man, the famous actor Laurence Olivier. Vivian's second marriage to Laurence Olivier became one of the most famous and talked about in British movie and theatre history. Their heated and public relationship began while they were both married to other people and went on for years. They finally got married in 1940. Their love story began in 1937 on the set of the play Fire Over England. They got along so well on stage that it quickly led to real life. Olivier was married to actor Gilles Esmond at that time, and Vivian was still married to Herbert Holman. But neither of them could fight the pull of the magnet between them. People were interested in and scandalized by their relationship because both stars were admired by Britain's cultural elite. People in the theatre world thought of them as royalty when they finally got married. They were both incredibly skilled, beautiful, and charismatic, and their star power shone on both stage and screen. During their marriage, Lee and Olivier worked together a lot on plays, including Shakespearean classics like Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, and Macbeth. Their performances in these plays wowed crowds in both Britain and the United States. They were also in movies together, like That Hamilton Woman, 1941, a military epic that showed how passionate they were about each other. They were both very successful in their careers, and pushed each other to be even better artists. But behind closed doors, their marriage was in a lot of trouble. Their relationship was under a lot of stress, because Vivian had bipolar disorder and repeated bouts of cancer. Olivier had been deeply in love with her for a long time, but her mood swings and weak health often made him feel too much. The pressures of fame and Vivian's mental health getting worse finally broke the bond that seemed impossible to break. In the late 1950s, it was clear that their marriage was in trouble. Because Vivian was sick, he had a lot of mental breakdowns, and Olivier started to find comfort in his work and other people. Even though they were apart, there was always a strong feeling of love between them. Olivier continued to praise Vivian's skill and kindness, even after they got divorced in 1960. He later called her a true genius, far greater than I could ever hope to be. It is said that Vivian also kept a picture of Olivier next to her bed until she died in 1967. This suggests that he was still the love of her life, even after all the sadness. When Vivien Leigh and Rex Harrison were put together in the 1937 romantic comedy Storm in a Teacup, the producers were hoping that the two of Britain's rising stars would have a lot of chemistry and look great together. Instead, they got an explosive clash of personalities that made Vivien Leigh hate Harrison for the rest of her life. One that was so strong that she later admitted she couldn't stand to hear his name. But working with Harrison made Vivien remember her early film career in a bad way, even though the movie itself wasn't a failure. People in London's West End already knew Rex Harrison for being smart and funny, and he carried himself with an air of superiority that people both liked and disliked. For Vivien Leigh, who was still working her way to fame, his pride was unbearable. She allegedly said, "He was the cockiest man I've ever met," and she added that he acted like being in the same room as everyone else was a favor. Harrison's habit of talking down to other people, especially his female co-stars, got on Vivien's nerves while they were shooting. She was very independent, and didn't mind challenging men who thought less of her. She also didn't let Harrison's reputation for being smart scare her. The way they worked together on screen in Storm in a Teacup was meant to show a lively love tension. A brave young woman and a haughty town official who start out as rivals but end up falling in love. Off-screen though, there was no love to be seen. Crew members say that Vivien often came out of practices with a red face and shaking hands because he was so angry. She later said, "He was insufferable, smug, vain, and constantly reminding everyone how clever he was. It was hard to talk sense with him because he was so stubborn. Lee had a hard time keeping her cool around Harrison every day because she was so sensitive and wanted to do everything perfectly. Part of the problem was that they had different artistic styles. Vivienne was very intuitive and driven by feelings and subtle psychological details. Rex Harrison, on the other hand, saw acting as a precise mental art. He thought in moderation, and wit, passion and truth were important to her. In almost every scene, their methods ran into each other. Harrison would make fun of Vivienne for being too dramatic when she tried to be emotionally open. She said he was thinking too much and feeling nothing when he spoke with a cool detachedness. They were getting so angry at each other that some scenes had to be filmed separately to avoid fights at the start. Harrison's actions outside of work didn't do much to make Vivienne like him again. He was known for his cutting sarcasm and for putting down people he thought were less smart than him. Lee was already having a hard time as a young actor working in a male-dominated field, so his condescension made her feel even worse. He talked to her like a schoolgirl, and she said, "I should be thankful for his attention, but I wasn't thankful. I was very angry." She became even more angry when she found out that Harrison had talked badly about her acting skills to people they both knew, calling her a pretty face with goals that were beyond her talent. Within 2 years of working together, Vivienne Lee would become famous all over the world as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, 1939, for which she won an Academy Award and became known as one of the best actors of her time. Harrison thought a lot of himself in his early years, but he wouldn't have the same level of success in movies until a long time later. After his success in My Fair Lady, Lee is said to have joked, "Well, at least he finally found a role where cold arrogance was an asset." Vivienne's dislike for Rex Harrison lasted for many years, long after Storm in a Teacup was no longer remembered. Friends said that when they said his name, she would still shiver. It wasn't just one bad situation that made her angry. It was a sign of how she didn't like hypocrisy and pride. She valued performers who were real, honest about their feelings, and respected each other. She thought Harrison represented everything that was wrong with the theater world. There is ego, pretense, and violence that is hidden behind sophistication. She told a friend once that he never did anything. He strutted around like he was Rex Harrison. Even Laurence Olivier, who knew both Vivienne and Rex very well, agreed that the two men could not get along. He once tried to get Vivienne to forgive Harrison's cockiness by saying that Harrison was just acting that way because he didn't believe in his own abilities. Vivienne, on the other hand, refused to change. "Not feeling safe is not a reason to be mean," she snapped. He enjoyed belittling people. Not being safe is not that. That shows grit. Vivienne's career went through both highs and lows over the years, but her memories of that early work together stayed clear. She had nice things to say about other co-stars who pushed her. It has never been said of Rex Harrison, but of Clark Gable, Marlon Brando, or even Olivier himself. She said to herself once that he was poison. Some people make you feel tired just by being near them. He was one of them. Her words show not only disdain for her job, but also something much more emotional. The strong dislike an artist felt when she was stuck early in her career with a man whose haughtiness took away the joy of making art. So Storm in a Teacup was more than just a movie credit for Vivienne Lee. It was a sign of strength, and a warning that sometimes even the brightest talents have to shine next to people who want to dim them. Vivienne Lee would always see Rex Harrison as the personification of war, the person she hated the most. Tuberculosis killed Vivienne Lee on July 8, 1967, when she was 53 years old. She had been sick for years. The creative community was shocked by her death, and there will never be another person like her in the worlds of film and theater, but her influence lives on. After Lee, many actors have tried to be as beautiful and brave as she was, and her acts will always be remembered.